You ever see one of those absolutely perfect, sweet, beautifully patterned melons at the store and just wonder, how? Well, I can tell you it takes a lot more than just a little gardening skill. It's a science, it's a system, and it's a professional standard that makes them truly exceptional. So let's peel back the rind and take a look.
It all really boils down to this one question, right? Why does one melon cost so much more than another? Well, that price tag reflects an incredible amount of precision and a serious commitment to a standard of quality and safety you can actually verify. And that standard, it has a name.
And that name is Good Agricultural Practices, or GAP for short. You can think of it as the official rulebook for growing top-tier produce. It's a framework that guarantees everything, from the soil to the water to the final fruit on the vine, is safe, clean, and the best quality it can possibly be. It's really the secret ingredient to that premium price.
So here's our game plan. We're going to follow the entire journey of one of these amazing melons. We'll kick things off with the foundational GAP standards, then jump into setting up the perfect growing environment. After that, we'll cover growth, the crucial selection process, talk about smart pest management, and finally, get to the harvest and that all-important certification.
First up, let's talk about the foundation. You know, success in this whole process is decided long before a single seed ever gets planted. It all begins with the GAP standards.
At its heart, GAP certification really comes down to three non-negotiables. First, a safe location. That means no history of chemical contamination or heavy metals. Second, clean water. And we're talking super specific here. No nasty stuff like E. coli and really low salt content. And third, a well-managed, totally clean greenhouse that's locked down tight from pests. If you mess up any one of these, the whole system just falls apart.
Okay, so you've got your safe spot and your clean water. Next up, you have to build a perfect, controlled little world for these melons to grow up in. And that means getting the greenhouse and the growing media just right.
And the level of detail here is just fascinating. We're not just talking about throwing up any old net. GAP specifies a fineness of 32 to 40 mesh. Now, why so specific? Because that's the exact size you need to physically block tiny little pests like thrips and whiteflies from ever getting in. It's a physical wall. That means you need fewer chemicals down the road.
Now, inside that protected greenhouse, you're not going to find regular dirt. Nope. These premium melons are grown in a soilless medium, and the recipe is super precise. 3 parts washed coconut coir, which holds moisture, and 1 part burnt rice husk or perlite for aeration. That specific 3-to-1 ratio is the secret sauce for preventing root diseases and giving the plant the absolute perfect conditions to grow.
So with that perfect environment all set up, the real work begins. We're now moving into the dynamic phase of growth and training the vine. This is all about managing the plant's diet and literally shaping its body for the best results.
Feeding the plant is like a carefully scripted 3-act play. For the first 15 days, it's all about nitrogen to get strong leaves and stems. Then, for the next couple of weeks, the focus shifts to a balance of phosphorus and potassium to get lots of flowers. But here's where the magic happens. After pollination, you cut back the nitrogen and seriously ramp up the potassium. That potassium is what creates that incredible sweetness.
And at the same time you're feeding it, you're also sculpting it. The rule is incredibly specific. You have to remove every single side shoot from the main vine all the way up to the 8th leaf. The plant's energy then gets focused entirely on the shoots between leaves 9 and 12. That's the fruit zone. Anything else is just a distraction.
This brings us to what is, without a doubt, the most critical stage of the whole journey, going from a flower to a perfect fruit. This is where the art of making tough choices creates unbelievable quality.
And here it is, the single most important rule in growing a premium melon. After all that work, preparing the greenhouse, mixing the media, fertilizing, you only keep one. That's it. One plant is allowed to put all its energy into just one single fruit.
And why would you do something so drastic? Well, it's so that every last bit of nutrient is sent to that one single fruit. By picking the best-looking one and getting rid of all the others, you're channeling 100% of the plant's energy, every drop of water, every bit of food, into creating one perfect, sweet, nutrient-packed melon. It is the definition of quality over quantity.
Now, with so much invested in that single fruit, you have to protect it, right? This is where you switch to a guardian's mindset with proactive pest management. The GAP approach isn't about fighting fires. It's about making sure they never even start.
And this really highlights two totally different ways of thinking. The old school way is reactive. You see a pest, you spray a chemical. The GAP approach is all about prevention. You're constantly monitoring with things like yellow sticky traps to see what's going on, and your first line of defense is always biological, not chemical.
So what's actually in this biological toolkit? Well, instead of harsh chemicals, a GAP farmer uses beneficial organisms as allies. You use trichoderma fungi to protect the roots, other fungi like Beauveria to handle insects, and helpful bacteria like Bacillus subtilis to fight off leaf diseases. Think of them as a microscopic security team.
And at last, we've reached the finish line, the end of all this hard work, the harvest and the certification. This is where the farmer gets to reap the rewards, not just in delicious fruit, but in verifiable trust.
This timeline really gives you a bird's-eye view of the whole journey. It's about a 13-week sprint from planting to harvest. You can see all the key moments we've talked about, hand-pollinating around week 4, and that absolutely critical decision to select just one fruit in week 5. Then, look at how the strategy changes in the final weeks, boosting potassium and even creating a little water stress, all to concentrate those sugars right before harvest.
So, how do you know the exact moment to harvest? It's a data-driven decision, not just a guess. You're looking for 3 key signs. First, the sugar content, or Brix level, has to be over 13, maybe even 14. Second, you track the exact number of days since you pollinated that flower. And third, you look for little visual clues like tiny cracks forming on the stem. It's pure science to ensure peak quality.
But harvesting that perfect melon isn't quite the final step. To get that valuable certification, you need proof, and that means paperwork. You'll need documents proving who you are and that you own the land, super detailed farm records tracking everything from where you got your seeds to what fertilizer you used, and safety plans to make sure everyone stays safe.
And this, right here, is the absolute heart of the GAP philosophy. It's all about traceability. The records you keep have to perfectly match what actually happened in that greenhouse. An inspector needs to be able to look at your logs and see the entire life story of that melon. This paperwork isn't just a hassle. It's your proof of quality and your bond of trust with the person who buys it.
So all of this leaves us with one final thought. We've seen the incredible precision, the data logging, and the systematic approach needed for just one premium melon. You have to wonder, is this level of detailed, traceable, and quality-obsessed farming the future for all high-value crops?